The air in New York was thick with heat and tension. Angelina Jolie had just stepped off a UN stage, exhausted after hours of meetings. But a plain white envelope had been slipped under her hotel door. No name, just a Burkina Faso stamp. Inside was a short letter. It wasn't typed. It wasn't neat. The handwriting shook with pain. It read, "If you knew what they did to us, you'd cry too. But we didn't stop dreaming. My name is Ibrahim. I was only 10 when they came. But now, I lead the people who survived." Angelina froze. Her hand trembled. There was no return address. But the story pulled at her soul. She had been to war zones, refugee camps. She had seen pain. But this felt different, more personal, more unfinished. That night, instead of sleeping, she read everything she could about Ibrahim Traoré. Who was this man with a past so painful he couldn't even say it all? By morning, her flight was rerouted. She was going to Burkina Faso, and what she would hear next would change everything. June 23rd. Jolie landed in Ouagadougou under a low, burning sun. The streets were alive with dust and movement, but there was a heaviness in the air, the kind that only places familiar with loss carry. She was met quietly at the presidential quarters, not with ceremony, but silence. And then, he entered. Ibrahim Traoré, calm, composed. But his eyes told a different story. They sat alone, no advisors, no cameras, just two people, one with questions, the other with memories that still bled. He began slowly. "I was 10. My father was a farmer. My mother made millet bread. We didn't know the world was burning. Until the night the trucks came." Angelina leaned in. The room was still. They were men with guns, faces covered. They didn't speak. They only shouted. "They took my father first. I heard him scream until he didn't." Ibrahim paused. Angelina's eyes widened. Her breath caught. "They told my mother to sing while they burned our house." That moment for Angelina broke something inside her. But Ibrahim wasn't finished. "I ran for 3 days. I had no shoes." He looked up. "That's when I promised. If I live, I will never stay silent." Angelina didn't speak for several seconds. Her eyes glistened. Ibrahim leaned back. He wasn't emotional. He had lived this too long. But then he said something unexpected. "I didn't want to become a soldier. I wanted to become a teacher." That stunned her. He continued. "But every time I opened a book, I heard their screams again. So instead, I taught boys like me how to survive, how to stay human, even when the world forgets us." Angelina asked softly, "Did the world ever come back for you?" He shook his head. "No, but I decided to stand up anyway." Suddenly, an aide entered, whispering something in Ibrahim's ear. He turned to Angelina. "Do you want to see where this story really began?" She nodded, and within the hour, she was in a black Jeep, driving deeper into the heart of a forgotten village, one the world had never cared to name. A village where the ashes of childhood still rested beneath broken trees, and where something would happen that not even Angelina saw coming. The dirt road twisted for hours. Every bump felt like a memory being shaken loose. Angelina stared out the window. Her usual calm had faded. There were no cameras now, no press, just dust, silence, and the weight of something she didn't yet understand. As they arrived, the Jeep slowed. The village didn't even have a sign. The huts were cracked. The school was a broken slab of concrete. Children played barefoot in the dust, their laughter somehow still alive. Ibrahim stepped out and walked slowly. "This is where I ran the night my mother died." He pointed to a pile of stones. "We buried her here. No coffin, no prayer, just silence." Angelina's lips parted, but no words came. She knelt beside the stones. One of the children, curious, walked up and handed her a flower made of dried grass. She whispered, "They're still smiling." Ibrahim nodded. They smile because they don't know how not to. That night, Jolie sat with the villagers around a fire. No media, no makeup, just stories, pain, and courage. And then, an old man approached her. He handed her something wrapped in cloth. "This belonged to Ibrahim's mother," he said. Angelina opened it and gasped. The cloth was faded blue, frayed at the ends, with tiny hand-stitched stars on one corner. Angelina ran her fingers over it slowly. "She made this?" she asked softly. Ibrahim nodded. "She wore it the night they took her." Angelina closed her eyes. In her own life, she had lost her mother to cancer. But this felt different. It was sudden, violent, unfair. She always said, "Even in fire you must cover your head with dignity," Ibrahim added, voice cracking slightly. Angelina clutched the scarf to her chest. In that moment, under the stars of a forgotten village, two worlds collided. One of Hollywood and cameras, one of pain and ashes. But then the elder spoke again. Ibrahim didn't just survive, he stayed. He built the school with his own hands. Angelina turned, stunned. Ibrahim looked away shyly. "We had no teachers, no help. I taught them what little I remembered, under the trees." One of the little boys chimed in. "He tells us stories every night so we don't dream of war." Angelina broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks. This wasn't just a man with a past. He was a guardian of forgotten dreams. The next morning was heavy. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the village was awake. Children gathered under a mango tree. Angelina followed Ibrahim quietly, her heart still wrapped in the memory of that scarf. He stood before the kids like he had done for years. "Today I'll tell you the story of a star that refused to fall." The children clapped softly. Angelina sat among them. Once, there was a boy who saw fire swallow his home. But instead of running forever, he planted hope in the ashes. A small girl raised her hand. "Is that you, Ibrahim?" He smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe it's all of us." Angelina watched, tears forming again. These children had nothing, but they had him. And somehow he made them feel like they had everything. Later that day, the cameras finally arrived. UN staff, journalists. But Jolie wasn't giving speeches. She pulled out her earpiece, walked to the front and said, "I came here expecting a meeting. I found a miracle." Then she turned to Ibrahim. "I want the world to see what I've seen. Will you let me help?" He hesitated, and then quietly he said, "Only if you promise not to cry when I show you the school." Angelina followed Ibrahim through a narrow path lined with broken stones and whispers of the past. Children trailed behind them, humming a tune she didn't recognize. Then he stopped. "This is our school." Angelina froze. There were no walls, no chalkboard, just a single black trunk under a baobab tree. Inside were a few tattered books, pencils barely longer than fingers, and plastic bottles filled with dust, used as weights to hold paper down on windy days. "When it rains," Ibrahim said quietly, "we don't learn. When it's too hot, we wait. But we never stop." Angelina knelt down, picking up a drawing. A child had drawn her and Ibrahim holding hands, surrounded by stars. Her voice cracked. "How long have you been teaching like this?" He shrugged, like it wasn't important. "Since I was 14. It was either this or silence." A small boy walked up and handed Ibrahim a piece of charcoal. Without a word, he wrote on the trunk lid, "Education is our resistance." Angelina stared at the words, then at the children. She didn't feel like a celebrity anymore. She felt like a witness. "This has to be shared with the world," she whispered. Ibrahim replied, "Not yet. There's more you need to see." The sun hung low as Ibrahim led her behind the crumbling remains of an old village church. Vines crawled over the cracked walls. Birds sang, but the silence between them was louder. They stopped at a flat patch of dirt. "What's here?" Angelina asked gently. Ibrahim didn't answer at first. He stared at the ground, like it held a voice only he could hear. "When I was a boy, this was a garden," he said. "But after the soldiers came, it became something else." Angelina's eyes narrowed. He pointed. "We buried 26 people here, some of them my friends." Angelina stepped back, visibly shaken. "No one ever knew," he added. "No one ever came." He sat on the ground beside the invisible grave, picking up a dried leaf. "Every leader talks about change, but I lead because I buried it." Angelina sat beside him, silent. The wind picked up. Suddenly, a girl no older than 6 walked by and placed a yellow flower in the center of the dirt. No one told her to. She just knew. Angelina broke down. "How are they still so kind?" Ibrahim whispered. "Because we taught them that pain doesn't erase love." That evening, a storm rolled over the village. Thunder cracked like old memories. The sky poured itself over the dusty roads, and Angelina took shelter in a thatched hut beside Ibrahim and 20 soaked children huddled under a tarp. Rain leaked from the ceiling, but no one left. Ibrahim took out a book, one of only 4 that hadn't turned to mush, and as lightning flashed, he read aloud. His voice didn't tremble. "Even when the sky breaks, we stay standing." Angelina looked around. The children listened like it was the most important sound in the world. She leaned toward him and whispered, "You could have left all of this behind." He smiled softly. But then who would remember them? Who would love them? As the storm raged, Angelina turned on her phone camera, not to post, not to perform, but to remember. She recorded the water dripping into pans, the tiny feet tucked beneath woven mats, the candlelight dancing on faces that had already seen too much darkness. And then Ibrahim said something she'd never forget. "Pain taught us how to survive, but love is how we rebuild." Outside, the storm faded. Inside, something in her heart had changed forever. The next morning was strangely quiet. Angelina sat with the children as Ibrahim prepared breakfast over an open fire. One of the boys sat beside her, holding a photo, cracked and faded. It showed a younger Ibrahim with 2 other boys and a tall woman. She gently asked, "Who are they?" The boy pointed. "That's his best friend, Mamadou, and that's Mama Adja. She raised him after the fire." Angelina's heart sank. "Where are they now?" The boy hesitated. "Gone." Later, as Ibrahim handed her a cup of warm millet porridge, she asked, "Who was Mamadou?" Ibrahim looked away. "He was like a brother. He used to climb mango trees barefoot. He gave me the last piece of bread when we ran. And he died, protecting me." Angelina's breath caught. "How?" "A landmine, 3 meters in front of me. He saw it and pushed me back." The silence that followed was unbearable. But then Angelina said something that startled even herself. "I read about that in a UN report years ago. A child hero in Burkina Faso. I never knew it was your story." Ibrahim simply nodded. They remember the pain, but they forget the names. As the midday sun beat down, Ibrahim asked if Angelina wanted to visit the orphan hut. "It's the quietest place in the village," he said. "Not because there's peace, but because the children there forgot how to speak." She followed him to a small clay house with no door. Inside were 5 children, each sitting alone, staring at different walls. No crying, no laughter, just silence. "What happened to them?" she whispered. "They watched their parents die," Ibrahim replied. "One saw her father beheaded. Another found his mother in a well." Angelina's chest tightened. "How do you help them?" "I sit with them. Every day, I don't force words. I wait for them to choose to return. He knelt beside a girl and began drawing circles in the dirt. Slowly, she copied him. Angelina knelt too, her hands trembling. She drew a star. The girl looked at it and smiled. She hasn't smiled in 3 years. Ibrahim whispered. A tear fell from Angelina's cheek. She realized then, it wasn't just about war or politics. It was about healing the human soul. And this man, this leader, was doing it one circle, one star, one smile at a time. That evening, the village prepared a meal in her honor. Beans, rice, and fried plantains. It was all they had, but they gave it with joy. Midway through dinner, a UN aide rushed in. Her next appearance in Geneva was confirmed. Private jet ready, global donors waiting. But Angelina stood slowly and said something no one expected. Cancel it. The room went still. The aide blinked. Ma'am? Angelina repeated it, firmer this time. I said cancel it. I'm not leaving. She turned to Ibrahim. If I walk out of here now, I betray everything I claim to stand for. These children matter more than headlines. The villagers didn't understand English, but they felt her heart. Ibrahim looked at her with something between surprise and deep respect. You'd stay? With no camera? No applause? She nodded. I've had the world's attention. But this is the truth they've never seen. She looked around at the faces that had become family in days. I want to help build the school with my hands. Ibrahim's voice shook. Then tomorrow we start, together. Outside, the stars glowed brighter than before. Inside, a revolution of love had begun. The sun rose over the village with a softness that belied the work ahead. Angelina rolled up her sleeves, slipped on worn-out sandals, and joined Ibrahim near a mound of broken bricks. Today they were rebuilding the school, not in words, but in stone. She lifted the first rock, then another, and another. The children watched from the trees, giggling at first. A world-famous actress getting her hands dirty? They had never seen anything like it. Ibrahim handed her a shovel. We'll build it taller than before. A roof this time, and maybe even windows. They worked for hours. By noon, her hands were blistered. Blood marked the handle of the shovel. She winced, but didn't stop. Ibrahim noticed. You don't have to do this. She shook her head. I do. I need to feel what they feel. Later, one of the children brought her a strip of cloth to wrap her palms. It was cut from an old t-shirt. So your hands don't cry anymore, the girl said. Angelina couldn't respond. Her throat had closed from emotion. For the first time in years, she felt human again. And the village? It was starting to feel whole. That night, under the stars, Angelina sat alone outside the hut, writing something in a small notebook. Ibrahim walked by, but didn't speak. He just sat near her, waiting. After a long silence, she finally said, It's a letter. To my children. She read it out loud. You've always known me as your mother, the actress, the activist. But today, I met someone who showed me what strength truly is. His name is Ibrahim. And he taught me that healing isn't found in fame. It's found in people who have every reason to hate, but choose to love. Ibrahim looked at her, stunned. She continued, If you ever feel small, forgotten, or broken, remember that in a small village in Burkina Faso, children who lost everything still laugh like the world belongs to them. And maybe, just maybe, it does. Tears slid down her cheeks. She closed the notebook, handed it to Ibrahim, and said, If I don't make it back one day, give this to them. He held it gently, like it was glass. And for the first time since they met, he cried, silently, with dignity. like the leader he was, and the boy he never stopped being. The next morning, Angelina saw a boy she hadn't noticed before. He was older, maybe 13 or 14, and stood apart from the others, leaning against a tree, eyes hollow. "Who is he?" she asked. Ibrahim's face darkened. "His name is Malik. He was rescued from a rebel camp 2 months ago. He was forced to carry guns. Sometimes worse." Angelina approached gently. "Hi, Malik. May I sit?" He didn't move, but he didn't walk away either. She sat in the dirt beside him and waited. Minutes passed. Then softly he said, "Do you know what it's like to be afraid of sleep?" Angelina's eyes welled. "I do, but not the way you do. Would you like to draw it?" He blinked. "Draw? Fear?" She nodded. Malik took a stick and scratched a shape into the dirt. A small boy with no mouth and a sky full of falling knives. Angelina had to look away. The pain was too raw. Ibrahim stepped in and placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. "You're not alone anymore." The boy stared at him, confused. "You still want me here, after what I did?" Ibrahim replied, "You didn't do it. They made you. But now, you get to choose who you become." On the 16th day, just when the village had begun to feel like a home reborn, the sky darkened. Clouds rolled in like a warning. The wind screamed through the trees. Ibrahim looked up, concerned. "It's coming fast." Within minutes, the rain hit harder than anything Angelina had ever seen. The school, still unfinished, trembled under the storm's weight. Children screamed, roofs peeled off like paper. The baobab tree, their classroom, split in two with a thunderous crack. Angelina held Malik close. He was shaking, not from cold, but from memories returning too fast. Suddenly, a cry pierced through the chaos. A child was missing. Ibrahim didn't hesitate. He ran barefoot through mud, shouting the boy's name. The boy was found clinging to the side of the collapsed school wall, water rising around him. Without a thought, Ibrahim leaped in. Angelina watched, breath frozen. Minutes passed. Then, he emerged, holding the boy in one arm, gasping for air. Everyone rushed to help, but Ibrahim collapsed in the mud, exhausted. The storm passed, but something else had shifted. Angelina knelt beside him, clutching his hand. "You didn't just save him," she whispered. "You saved all of us." And for the first time, the villagers sang his name, not in fear, but in love. The morning after the storm, sunlight pierced the sky like a promise. But the village was in ruins again. Roofs gone. The unfinished school cracked, belongings scattered. Angelina walked the path alone, tears in her eyes. But then, she heard it. A voice, soft, fragile, familiar. It was Malik. He was speaking to the other children, to the wind, to himself. "We can fix it again. Ibrahim did it before." The other children nodded. Then, one by one, they picked up stones, planks, books from the mud. Angelina covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Ibrahim, still recovering, sat beneath a tree. She ran to him. "They're rebuilding." Without being told, he smiled weakly. That's what leadership is. Not giving orders, giving people hope. Later that evening, Angelina filmed one final message. She stood in front of the broken school, children around her, Ibrahim by her side. She spoke into the camera. "You may know me as an actress, but today, I want you to know Ibrahim. A man who lost everything, but gave more than most people ever will. A leader who doesn't rule with fear, but heals with love." She paused, eyes glistening. The world needs to see him. And then, she posted it. Within 24 hours, the video spread like wildfire. 10 million views, then 20, then 50. People from every corner of the globe watched Ibrahim's story. They cried, they shared, they gave. Donations poured in, not from governments, but from mothers, students, teachers, and strangers. Celebrities reposted the video. News outlets ran headlines. Angelina Jolie leaves Hollywood behind to uplift Africa's forgotten leader. Who is Ibrahim Traoré, the man who made Angelina Jolie cry? And then came the letter. From a child in Chicago. Dear Ibrahim, I saw your school. I saw your pain. I want to be strong like you. When I grow up, I want to be a leader too. Thank you for not giving up. Ibrahim read it aloud to the children. They clapped. They danced. They believed. Angelina stood at the edge of the rebuilt classroom. She turned to the camera one last time. If this story touched you, don't scroll past. Click like, subscribe. Leave a comment for these children to read. Let the world know that love is louder than war. That hope lives here. She looked into the lens, eyes full of emotion. And never forget his name. Ibrahim Traoré. He didn't just survive. He taught the world how to live. What did this story make you feel? Drop a comment below and speak from your heart, because these children will be reading them. Click like if Ibrahim's courage moved you. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories the world needs to see. Let's make sure the world